Oh, this one lights up. Hello folks, welcome to Netcruzer RC. Today we're going to go through another new RC transmitter, and that's the RadioLink RC6GS V2. So first of all, RadioLink did send this out for review, but that does not guarantee a positive review, and it's going to just be the same way I always do it, which is my initial first impressions and fit and finish and just the design of the device and how it runs out of the box. So I just want to be clear on that they did not pay for this, and all they did was just ship me the product to check out. So I'm appreciative of that, and we're going to get into it right now. Now this one is the V2. The V2 adds a couple of changes to the switches where it adds, I believe, a cruise control as well as some other dials that you didn't have before on the V1. This is a 6-channel radio. It also has a gyro-capable receiver, and there's a receiver in the box. The reason why you may be most interested in RadioLink is because their gyro-based receivers are some of the cheapest on the market, and it has an incredibly long range. So this radio is rated at, I believe, a 600-meter range, as well as I think the receiver is a diversity antenna, so we'll take a look at that as well. This up out of the box, I think this is the, oh, you got a lanyard out of the very top. And okay, here's the receiver, and the receiver that you get in with the RC6GS V2 is the R7FG V1.2, and this is what I meant by diversity, so it has double antennas coming off. Now typically for race cars I don't really want this. This is overkill for a race car, you don't need this, but what this is probably going to be good for is anything where you're going to have long distance RC. Typically you see this type of thing on an airplane because you're flying them quite far away from you. This is going to be good for a speed runner, and that's primarily what I'm going to test this radio on once we get into better weather type scenario, is how well does the RadioLink RC6GS V2 run on the ARMA Limitless, because that's what we're going to put it on. And telemetry ports at the top. And there are other receivers that you can get for this. I actually did just order one. I believe it was a 6-channel single antenna with a gyro for like $26 Canadian. So if you're looking for a multi-RC radio that's fairly affordable, oh yeah, that's what I forgot to mention, is the price point of this. This is under $100 US. It's around 120 Canadian, which equates usually to around $80 American. It's very affordable for what it is. For its feature set, it's cheap. So I'm curious on what is its build quality going to be like, because oh, it's very light. There had to be compromises to hit that price point for sure. You're getting a gyro-based receiver, double antennas, 7 channels, a lot of technology in this. You have telemetry abilities as well based on the telemetry ports. You would have to buy telemetry accessories for that, so it doesn't have like smart telemetry without sensors. You would have to add sensors to it. So here's the RC6GS V2. It does have a screen on it, kind of bulky a little bit. It's got a fairly big battery base. I wonder if it takes extra batteries because of that range. Yeah, it does. So instead of your typical 4 AA's, it actually takes 6 AA's. Take a little bit more power, the extra range, as well as it has an actual antenna. Most 2019 plus radios haven't had visible antennas on them for a while, so that's just something where you can hit it, but it does give you extended range. So if you're looking for something where you have long range running with 6 or 7 channels, a bunch of customizable switches, ability to program modes through a computerized radio, the trigger itself actually feels pretty good, but it's non-adjustable. I don't believe it has any adjustments to it. It is how it comes out of the box. Its actual range of motion is quite nice, and it's smooth. Steering feels alright as well, but it does feel budget. Like it's really light, and there's a little bit of like plastic on plastic rubbing. I wonder if it just got tweaked a little bit in shipping. Yeah, you can almost see it's got like a little bit of a wobble to it. That's not just the foam. The foam has a little bit of an off center too, but I can see the plastic in this hinge area flex. So we'll see how good the quality of the potentiometer is in here once we actually get it up and running. You have these dip switches up at around the wheel, 3-way positions. You have your digital trims around the wheel. This is the knob here for doing things like cruise control or programming it to whatever you would want. You do have interesting features, like there's the lanyard hook here, and you have some mount points. You can take that plug out, and then that's a 1/4-20 screw for like mounting a camera or mounting a phone or anything you want. USB port plug here for doing firmware updates. It's got a little cover on it, so you can just pop that off. It's off. It's little keyed into place. You'll probably lose that at some point, but there's your update port. Micro USB, and I'm curious if that will work on VRC as well. So we might have to plug them into a computer later and see if this works directly on VRC like the Noble does. That might be another alternative, although we haven't tried that yet. The other thing is that since it has USB port, that means there will be software updatable in the features. Your on-off switch is on the back. There is a charge port as well if you want to run this, I guess if you wanted to run rechargeables. And there's a button here on the handle, and there's a button here on the handle. I mean, it's going to feel a lot heavier once I put 6 AA's in it, so we'll do that next. Get it powered on and see what the menus and stuff are like. I was harvesting some batteries to run in the RadioLink to get it tested out. I was just, you know, playing with some of these, what I call higher end RTR radios, some of the nicer RTR radios that I've received in some of the kits. This one is the associated that comes with the Enduro platform, and you know, the wheel has more tension. The wheel actually feels a little nicer. Trigger is not as nice, but you know, build quality feels about the same. It's just that this is going to have a lot more features to it. Actually, the RadioLink is more of a comfortable grip as well. So the way that the grip is molded is actually nice. You don't get adjustable inserts. If you saw my FlySky Noble radio review, a lot of the higher end racing radios have inserts for comfort. This would be something like, this is a really good bashing radio, speedrunners radio, crawling radio. I would say that's what you want to get this for. I don't know what the protocol speed is like on the RadioLink yet, but it probably is not up to the par of like a Sanwa or a Futaba of that respect, but you're going for distance, I believe, is their focus with the RadioLink. And then we have a Kyosho. Actually, the trigger and the wheel on this Kyosho radio feels worse. Okay, the RadioLink actually feels pretty good for trigger feel. Okay, I've got the batteries in, and that has significantly increased the weight of the whole unit. It's not too heavy, in my opinion. It actually adds to the quality feel. So, but it definitely gives it a lot more weight in the base. The base is quite a bit heavier with the 6 AA's in it than the top. Since this is a V2, I was curious what was changed with the V2, and I noticed when I was just checking in the box that there was this little insert. So the V2 improves the FPV holder hole, the strap hook, buttons SWA, SWD, the handle, and the trigger location. SWA and SWD are the two buttons that are on the handle. So this one and this one have been improved. The lanyard hole's been improved. The trigger location, it says. Now, I don't know about what's different about the location, but I will say that the trigger feel is quite good for a radio of this price point. My initial impression, the thing that they could improve is the wheel quality. Yeah, it's mostly on right-hand turns. I can feel it rubbing against something, but that's probably just a defect with this one. Doubt that they're all like that, or we would have heard about it by now. You know, quick response. I'm only noticing that because I'm being extra critical about its feel. Overall, so far, the thing that feels the worst is the wheel mechanism. Everything else seems pretty good. This is the manual version 1.4. And here's all of the features of the radio. We will quickly go through this stuff. Now, it is a 6-channel radio, but they give you a 7-channel receiver with it. So here's some of the functionality of the 7-channel receiver that you get. And as I mentioned, I also did order one more receiver, which is a 6-channel receiver with a gyro. So we'll play around with that later on when that gets here in another video. Here's how to optimize and configure the gyro. Yeah, so this extra JST head connection is for the telemetry options that you can get for this radio. How to set up the PWM and S-Bus options for the different modes. You can have mode 1 through mode 4. How to set up your mixes. And lastly, the specifications. So the radio weighs 342 grams, has a 600 meter range, or 1,968 feet, which is probably the longest range radio that I have. 4,096 channel resolutions, and it has a frequency hopping sped spectrum 67 channel pseudo random frequency sequence hopping. And here's all of the receivers that it is compatible with: 7FG, 6FG, R6F, R8, R8, R4 models. And oh, model memory, you can only have 10 models saved in this radio. That is a fairly low limit, but 10 is adequate, although I would have liked to see more. I would have liked to see in the hundreds, 250. Now, as mentioned, this radio has a FPV holder, which is actually here. If you're just looking at it, you don't see what that is. It's just a rubber cap, but you can pry it out. There we go. So you can pry it out, and I believe it's a standard 1/4-20 tripod hole, and then you could mount anything there that you want. It's designed for FPV screens, but you could put anything on there that you want as long as you have the adapter. So this is just a rubber plug covering up that hole. It's a nice little feature. Alright, so let's power this on for the first time. Backlit screen, that's good. 8.6 volts of battery power, and Model 1. Let's see if it does live. Yes, it does. Steering, throttle. Okay. Hold enter and exit together, gets you into the menu system. Go into language, and under your language it will show you the version of software that's on your radio. So my radio came at version 6.1.0, and I'm in frequency hopping sped spectrum receiver mode. So if there's a newer version than that available, I may upgrade to that, but that's how mine came out of the box. So models, endpoint adjustments, steering exponential, steering speed, throttle exponential, throttle speed, ABS, anti-lock braking system, Excel, throttle acceleration setting, idle up, sub-trims, reverse channels, dual rates, ATL. ATL is something called brake side adjustment, and then mix 1, mix 2, this will be all your mixes, aux channel, you can have a name for your model, and alarm. The alarm is for low voltage protection and RSI signal settings, gyro settings, FS is fail-safe settings, ID seed. ID seed is for if you want to control 2 receivers with 1 radio. You can set that up and then factory reset. So those are all of the main menu items in the RadioLink RC6GS2. The trims, bottom one here is steering trim, steering low, steering high. This one at the top is throttle trim, so that's channel 1, channel 2. And then this one here would be your probably channel 3. Aux channels. So channel 3 is your variable rate dial. I forgot about that one. That's this one here, variable rate. So if I go into the VR setting, oh, this is where you can change it. So you can change your channels to be the different dials and switches under aux channel. Yeah, so you got 3, 4, 5, and 6. SWA is this one. Switch C is a 3-way switch. Switch D is a 3-way switch. D. Oh, this one lights up. So that one's a toggle, on and off. So there's a lot of programmability you can do with this. It's pretty good for the price point, I would say. Name, this should be the model name. Yeah, so you can change your model names, but you can only store 10 models. Alarms is transmitter voltage, external voltage, RSSI signal, so if your signal gets low, you can have an alarm go off. Alarms for telemetry as well. So if temps go up, you can have a temp setting. In the gyro, you do have gyro on, variable rate, so this would be the variable rate setting for your gyro stability mode. Rate 100%, we don't want that, 0 is off. Cool, but I usually like to have around, for my backyard bashers, I usually like to have around 20% gyro stability. I like that setting. This adapter comes in the box, which has an XT60 to XT60 to a JT connector. This is actually for battery telemetry. This is how you would have to do it, including using the included receiver that you get, the RC7. You plug the JT connector into the telemetry port, and then you would have to have your battery in line with this. Feeds it into the receiver, which then sends the telemetry back to your radio. But in order to do this setup, it's not something that I see many people doing, because most cars, most surface-based RCs don't use XT60, and that's more of a drone thing. So you would have to modify these or run adapters in line, and then you have to program the telemetry, whatever the S type of the battery is. So you have to go into the settings, and you would change it from a 2S to 6S depending on what battery you would run in that model. That all seems a little bit clunky. In order to just get the voltage, I would rather just run a standalone voltage alarm. You know, just plug something into the balance port or just have your low voltage protection set on your ESC. That's the other thing. Typically you have all of those options before you deal with telemetry based on the radio. So I wouldn't worry too much about the per voltage telemetry available, but it is an option, and it comes with it. Also, for this dual antenna, they recommend that you route the antennas at 90 degrees from each other for maximum range. So you don't want to have them twisted up. If you have them, together, there's no real advantage. You try and separate these antennas best you can, but they're recommending 90 degrees. Could probably do 180 if you wanted to, but try and route them through your RC at 90 degrees. The RC that I plan on testing this on is the ARMA Limitless. So yeah, I did blow up the speed control in this last summer during some testing, so I do have new equipment, and the version 2 setup of this is going to be Mamba Monster X8S with the Limitless with a 2000 kV motor, and then the RadioLink radio system with some gyro stability and stuff. So that will be version 2 of the Limitless, but it'll be a few months before we get there. That'll be primarily what this radio gets tested on. So we will be looking forward to that when the weather gets better, but it'll be a while before we get there. Also, I have been waiting for the new firmware to come out for the Mamba X8S, because if you've been following any of the RC news over the last couple of months, the XLSX, the SLX2, and the MMX8S have problems with delta wind or Y wind motors above 2000 kV. There's something wrong with the programming where it's not designed for one of those types of motors, and it causes them to overheat and blow up the speed control. So I'm waiting for a fix for that before I even use that speed control, because it's an expensive speed control. And then this radio is actually really good value. I was thinking, you are getting a lot of equipment for the money. For $80 US, 120 Canadian, seems like pretty good equipment that you're getting for that price. And I really like that you can get additional receivers for $26. Now, the only thing that I did not see in all these specifications that come in the manual is latency. We'll try and do an improved version of my latency test with some high frame rate footage, and we'll do a comparison of the RadioLink versus maybe my Spectrum EX5C and some other radios that I didn't test the last time. And we'll try and come up with a list of speeds, testing it the same way that I did the FlySky Noble MB4. So that's the RadioLink RC6GS V2. If you want to get a radio like this, I'll put links in the description where you can get it from. Hit subscribe if you want to follow along with the channel for what I do with this in the future, because we will be doing some range testing with it on a high-speed car, the ARMA Limitless. Alright guys, if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button. And as always, thanks for watching.